Okay, we have 105 people here. I think we can go ahead and get started. So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Africa region session of the Short Talks Big Impacts competition, brought to you by the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, which we call OWSD for short. And we are very excited to have you with us today as we kick off the first of these competitions with we should have 16 women scientists from across Africa if they're all here. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Erin Johnson, and I work on both the fellowships and awards programs here at the OS Secretariat, as well as communications. And I'm here today with my colleague Julia Signori, who works mostly with the OS national chapters and OS membership, and also on communications. So hello, Julia. If you want to give a wave. And the reason that we decided to host these competitions is that we know how critical it is to communicate science clearly, especially when it comes to making complex research accessible to diverse audiences, non-expert audiences. And the ability to effectively communicate your research not only makes it more relatable to people, but it also highlights how your work can solve some of the world's biggest challenges and also local challenges. And this will help you when you're trying to attract funding for your research and when you're trying to convince a policymaker or a decision maker that your work is important, and when you're trying to gain public understanding and public buy-in for your work. And most of the time that you're faced with communicating your research to somebody that's not in a conference or an academic setting, you don't have an hour or half an hour to get your point across. You might have just a few minutes. And so that's why we think it's very important to develop the skills to communicate your research succinctly and really get to the heart of why it's important, what impact does it have, and why should people care. So that's the question that we've asked the presenters to answer today, and that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Erin, thank you so much for this introduction. And I think it's really, really inspiring to see how many OWS members and non-OWS members have registered for today's session. This really highlights the growth and the warmness of this OWS community. We also received several applications from really, really talented researchers, all OWS members in this case, and we are really excited that they're all joining us here today and that you, as the audience, are joining us to hear the amazing work that these presenters are doing in science and research across the Africa continent. These 16 women who will be presenting, they will be presenting their research in just 3 minutes. Of course, it's a very exciting and a bit scary challenge, but it really helps us focus on what really matters. So, like as Erin was saying, what difference does the research make in the world? So, we really encourage you to listen closely and consider how this presentation connect to the global issues that impact us all as not only a continent but as a world. I'm going to explain just very briefly how the session will run. After a brief introduction to each of the presenters, um, all of them will have exactly each of them 3 minutes to share the research with us. And we will be keeping track of time. So there will be a timer that will show up and a music will be played when the 3 minutes are over. So no worries for the presenters, just be focused, clear, and impactful, and you will be advised when the time is up. And after all the presentations, you the audience will have the chance to vote for your favorite presentation based on the criteria that were already outlined when we invited you to this webinar, which are clarity, engagement, and how well the researcher has communicated the potential global impact of their research. The way it will work is that we will use a poll that will be integrated into this webinar. So you should see the poll when the time comes. But be careful that you only have to vote one presentation, the best one in your opinion, at the end. And so for this reason, I strongly suggest you to take notes during the presentations. Take note of the presentation and the name of the person that you really liked, because there will be no voting in real time, but only at the end of all the presentations. So you need to remember who is the person that you really liked most the presentation, and maybe to connect the face, it can be helpful. So that's why also why we are showing a slide at the end during the voting period. We will show a slide. With all the names and the pictures, so this might help you a little bit to remember which was your favorite presentation. However, I strongly suggest you again to take notes. I hope everything is clear. No worries. We will do a quick review of the rules of the game right before voting. But for now, just be prepared and enjoy these very impactful presentations that we are about to listen now.
Great. Thank you, Julia. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with the presentations. So our lucky first presenter is Aminatu Kone from Mali. Please, anybody feel free to correct me if I'm butchering your name. So welcome, Aminatu. Aminatu is one of only 11 OST members from Mali, and we don't typically have a lot of participation from Mali in our online events. So we're really glad that you decided to participate today, Aminatu. So yeah, as Julia said, we'll put the timer up on the screen so you know how much time you have left, and we'll start it only once you start speaking. So don't worry about slow connections or trying to get yourself unmuted as fast as possible. And okay, I'll now turn it over to you, Aminatu.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to be here today. I'm Aminatu Kone. I'm a researcher and teacher in molecular biology, and I work on malaria, which is one of the deadliest disease in children and pregnant women in Africa. And my research is a very basic, fundamental molecular biology. And when we started 20 years ago, it was believed that African countries had no capacity and no expertise to conduct molecular biology research and generate data trustable enough that could contribute to improve African population health. So we started with a very vestigial laboratory with PCR methods, and in 2000s, and we were the only lab in Mali contributing to inform the National Malaria Control Program about the malaria drug resistance molecular side and contributing to the design and better malaria treatment policy that fits Malian reality. And actually, we have been a very grown-up lab, and I am currently co-leading the genomic, not only PCR anymore, so the genomic unit, which is really developing and implementing techniques, the most advanced techniques for many other disease surveillance like COVID-19, dengue, and Zika outbreaks. And in our lab, we have been selected to be funded by the Gates Foundation for the global project on malaria molecular surveillance. So this is just to highlight the importance of fundamental science becoming important in Africa to understand disease biology, the host and pathogen interaction, and treatment mechanism and resistance development. So to make that a reality, we also have put in place the Malian Society of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology that I am a vice president. So I'm not only in the lab, I am also a woman on field and site, study site, and there I have a very positive impact on the general understanding and perception of malaria disease by other women, as we know that women are the ones that are mothers seeking care for sick kids and pregnant women. So the interaction is much more easier when it's a woman involved in that. And also I have learned a lot from the site side, and I decided to join an international board of the Global Malaria and Gender Community of Practice. And there we are working on strategies for equity in implementing malaria control and elimination policies, as well as the empowerment of women capacity and participation as a leader for a better health in Africa. So I thank you for listening. From Bamako, Mali.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aminatu. What a wonderful presentation. Oh. Okay, good. I think that was a really strong start. So, wow, I hope it's a great sign of what we're in store for, I hope. Um, and I know it's hard to go first, so thank you. Um, so let's go on now to our next speaker. Actually, I'm not sure that the next one on the schedule is here, who is Anyanyechi Akoma Abadidaike. You're not by chance in the audience, are you, Anyanyechi? No, don't think so. So we'll go on to Lydia Mercy Guda from Kenya. And uh, unlike Mali, we have many, many members from Kenya. It's one of our largest national chapters. So we're happy also to see representation from there. And I'm sure, Lydia, that you have many compatriots in the audience today who will be happy to see you speak. Uh, and so, yes, please, Lydia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I am an environmental educator and also in the planning space. I'm working on very many researches, but currently my research is on water planning strategies when it comes to small towns and medium-sized towns. Because across Africa, we have the problem whereby you have towns and cities that are grappling with very many issues, and one of them is water, pollution, and all that. So my study focused on three areas. It focused on three areas, which is accessibility of water within the towns and their sources, and also how the residents cope during periods of stress. So when it comes to the sources, despite it being a town or an urban town status, there is no pipe to water, and that is the case across most towns in Africa or in sub-Saharan Africa and also in Kenya. And in a small town called Awasi Edat also rainwater. So you can see there is no piped system. And then when it comes to access, the global level for access according to WHO and also our Ministry of Health, it is 1 kilometer that or within the compound. But we can tell from the data that we collected from the field, there's a lot of residents, only only up to around 20% have water within their homesteads compared to the entire study area that we took, and that is way below the required standards. And then there's also the issue of now, because now there is the source, the only sources we have, they are water, they are boreholes and rainwater. Those are the main sources that we have. And also the access is below minimum. And from that, we can also tell that they are all weather dependent on rainfall. So there has to be period of drought or scarcity. That is during the dry period. So there are some coping strategies that they use, and most of them we have multiple use. There is rationing. They have to purify the water, suspended use, and all that. And from what we can tell, the quality is very poor, up to 41%. They say the quality was very poor, and also the water has a lot of fluoride content, and it is salty to taste. So there is that issue of of of, of the quality of water. And also from all that, there's a problem that if we need to have smart cities, well integrated cities with the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to start planning them from as they are small towns. From the period when they are small towns, we need to start planning them from that period before we wait for them to be large cities with the runaway problems that we currently face. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. That timer is a very jaunty sound. It's still not nice to get interrupted, I know. Uh, thank you. That was really interesting. And I think you've convinced us all of the importance of your work. Thank you. Um, so we've found Onyenyechi. She was in the audience. So Onyenyechi, are you here? Would you like to present next? If not, we can also come back to you. Okay, don't know if she hears us, so let's come back to her. We can go to our next presenter on the docket, who is also from Kenya, who is Chao Mbogo. Welcome, Chao. I'm Chao.
Let me just ensure you can hear me before I start. I want to
Yes, we
get
can.
the timer right in my radar. Okay.
Yes, and yes, it's nice to see you again. I had the pleasure of meeting Chao in Seattle in 2020 because she was one of the winners of our OWSD Elsevier Foundation Award that year. And I know she's very passionate about her research. So please share it with us.
Dorcas and Anthony are Kenyan university students who pursued tech-aligned courses but had limited personalized guidance. When they both unsuccessfully applied to several internships, they lacked confidence in their technical and personal development. Over time, the world outside university classrooms has increased in technological advancements, but the world inside many Kenyan tech classrooms that serve students like Dorcas and Anthony have not kept pace in teaching and learning. The result of this is that it can take up to 5 years for Kenyan university graduates to earn gainful employment. One approach has been cited as one that can benefit students as mentorship. But at least 73% of Kenyan university students do not receive consistent mentorship outside the classroom. This led to me asking two questions. What is a mentorship model that could support tech undergraduate students in Kenya? And what is the effectiveness of such a model on nurturing employability? To design a mentorship model, we examined tech curricula with feedback from industry partners, employers, and beneficiaries. The result is an 8-month mentorship curriculum that complements classroom learning for tech students to upskill them in areas such as responsible innovation and professional development. To examine its effectiveness, we measure learning, reaction, behavior, and long-term outcome. The results: we have trained 271 students from 27 universities in Kenya across 8 cohorts by collaborating with at least 200 industry professionals and 30 organizations. By participating in this mentorship program, students like Dorcas achieved software engineering and professional development skills. Today, Dorcas is a full-time software engineer at Microsoft ADC in Nairobi. Anthony gained skills in data science and software and scholarship expertise. Today, he is a full-time student at the University of Cape Town, pursuing an MSc in artificial intelligence on a full scholarship towards a career in research. Dorcas and Anthony represent many of our beneficiaries who gained employability through structured mentorship towards diverse careers in tech. Their stories prove that we can contribute towards closing the skills gap by combining classroom learning and industry-relevant human and technical skills. As a result, we can contribute up to $11.5 trillion towards the global GDP. So join me in reimagining education in tech, one holistic skill at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chao. That was wonderful. I think using personal stories of your students was really, really a powerful means of communicating your research and how impactful it is. So we've managed to promote Onyenyechi to a presenter. So we're going to try connecting with her again. Let's see, Onyenyechi, can you hear us? Are you there?
Yes, yes, I can. I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Great. Please, well, I'll just introduce you a little. Onyenyechi is also from Nigeria, which is our single largest national chapter. We have over 2,000 members from Nigeria. So we have a good representation here today from Nigeria in the presenters, and I'm sure also in the audience. So Please, Onyinyechi, go ahead and tell us about your research.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Onyechi Ndemele Akoma from the University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria. My research is formulation of trichoderma biopesticide for biocontrol of microbial rots of post-harvest yam tuber. The research focused on outlining the importance of controlling microbial rot, with Nigeria being the largest producer of yam tuber. To control post-harvest loss is very important. And so we propose the use of biocontrol agents as alternative to chemical synthetic chemicals. The problem is microbial rot in yam tuber. It leads to significant losses. Losses could be up to 60%, resulting in reduced market value and income for farmers and causing insecurity, food insecurity. And so the drawbacks of synthetic chemicals include environmental pollution, biodiversity impact, human health risks, and high cost of such chemicals. And so we prefer the trichoderma biocontrol agents, which are eco-friendly. Their mode of mechanism, microparasitism, and enzyme production degrades the cell wall of phytopathogens, making it possible to reduce the effects of such pathogens. But most trichoderma formulations have live spores. They contain live spores that are sensitive to ultraviolet light. So how do we address this challenge? Well, decide to encapsulate trichoderma spores. This will enhance their visibility, their availability, and prolong their shelf life, ensuring consistent performance. Spray drying provides an easy and effective method for applying the biocontrol agents, simplifying the process for farmers to use. What's the way forward? Is field trials. We make awareness, adoption, and sustainability. We demonstrate the effectiveness of trichoderma biopesticide, educating farmers about the benefits of biopesticide and promoting sustainable agriculture. The expected outcome include increase in yam production, contributing to global food supply, significant reduction in post-harvest losses due to microbial rots, and elimination of environmental pollution from synthetic chemicals. Our take home and the next step forward is adoption, formulation, and field trials. We want to secure funding for extensive field trial, scaling up trichoderma spore encapsulation, and developing a wellness program to promote adoption of this biopesticide control among farmers. Thank you for listening and for your time.
Thank you, Onyinyechi. I liked how you ended with the take-home message. I think that was really effective. And it's probably something that we should all incorporate into our presentations. So moving on to our next presenter, we have Solange Uwinga Bire. I'm sure that I'm not pronouncing that right, from Rwanda. So welcome, Solange. Solange is working in the field of agricultural sciences, which is a field a lot of OWSD members are working in, and I think in forest sciences in particular. So I will turn it over to you, Solange.
Thank you so much. My name is Solange Wingawile. My research was focusing on agroforestry for sustainable bioenergy and improved soil fertility into agroecological zone. I came up with this because in Rwanda, due to increasing population and higher demand of food and energy, I came up with an idea of integrated solution where a smallholder farmer in his small farm, he can grow agroforest species. And once the agroforest species is growing, he can harvest the biomass and use gas fire cook stove. while cooking, he may produce biochar. So in my research, I was seeing the use of those gas fire stoves which produce biochar, and at the same time that biochar, I wanted to see its agricultural benefit of that biochar. So among the key findings, I found that concerning energy efficiency and health benefits, I found that gas fire stoves saves fuel consumption up to 50% comparing when you are using traditional cooking stove. I found also that biochar has increased the soil fertility because the field trials we did, we apply a single application and we assess the change in biophysical chemical properties in 3-season growing. So we find that after that 3 growing season, the soil properties has been improved. We found also the small farmers has been appreciated the use of gas fire stoves because it was their first time. They appreciated the health benefits such as reduced smoking. So as a message, we find that we can recommend biochar as a sustainable solution for conservation agriculture and also for energy efficiency as bioenergy. And this work is contributing to sustainable sustainable development goals like SDG 2 and 7. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Solange. That was super interesting, and it sounds like you've had really, really impressive results with your research. Very clear impact. Our next presenter will be Jamila Ben Marnisi from Tunisia, Northern Africa. And Jamila is working on a topic that is very much on the radar at the moment, I think, which is biodiversity. So, Jamila, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I am Jamila Ben Marnisi from Tunisia, a doctor in biological science from University of Tunis El Manar. So let me ask you first, what is the secret to building a resilient ecosystem and ensuring food security was hiding in a creature smaller than a grain of sand? So meet the tardigrades, a tiny water bear that can survive while life seems impossible. They freeze in Antarctica, to the heat of volcanic vents, and even in the vacuum of outer space. But beyond its survival superpowers lies unexpected potential for environmental conservation and agriculture. So how can such a microscopic organism contribute to solving real-world challenges? As the first specialist on tardigrades in Africa and the Arab world, my PhD research led to a groundbreaking achievement: the discovery of 2 new species and the creation of the first ever French language guide on tardigrade biodiversity. But their most promising trait is cryptobiosis, an extreme state of dormancy. By adapting these biological mechanisms, we can revolutionize seed preservation, extending viability under drought and environmental stress. So imagine seeds staying alive longer. This approach strengthens actually plant biodiversity, essential for food security in the face of climate change. So let me ask you again, can a creature barely visible to the naked eye help us to build more resilient agriculture? Absolutely. My work goes beyond identifying species. I am exploring how tardigrades can transform soil health. So these microscopic organisms improve key elements for sustainable farming. In a vulnerable region, like in North Africa, where drought and pollution threaten agriculture, understanding their ecological role offers real solution and preserving biodiversity. So if the smallest organism can inspire such a powerful solution, what else might nature be teaching us? Tardigrades remind us that resilience often comes from the tiniest allies. Tardigrades remind us that resilience often comes from the tiniest allies, as I said, and by unlocking their biological secret, we can advance agroecology, protect biodiversity, and strengthen ecosystem from the soil to our plates. Thank you for your attention. Together, let's turn scientific discovery into sustainable action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamila, and great job on the timing. I think that was really well paced. And yeah, it is very informative. I think it left me for sure with a lot to think about in terms of why we have to think about diversity on all scales, even the tiniest little creatures that we can't see. So next up we have Deborah Tamitop Olalikan, who's from Nigeria. And I think she's working in chemical sciences, if I'm correct. So over to you, Deborah.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Temitokwela Lekon. My research is centered on the metabolic engineering of indigenous oleaginous organisms for enhanced biodiversity. Please, the network is fluctuating here. Please bear with me, the network is fluctuating. My research is centered on the metabolic engineering of indigenous oleaginous organisms as feedstocks for enhanced biodiesel production. In my country in Nigeria, there is overdependence on crude oil, which has resulted in attendant environmental concerns and extensive demands for foreign exchange, also depletion of foreign reserves. This has actually necessitated the need for other truly sustainable and renewable alternatives to biodiesel, to crude oil rather, of which biodiesel is the most viable option due to its numerous advantages. It is highly biodegradable, it is renewable, it has excellent lubricating properties, it has a higher stain rating, it has a higher flash point, it can be used in conventional diseases, it is less toxic, and it also has a greater combustion efficiency. Biodiesel is actually produced by transesterification reaction of oil from various sources with short chain alcohol to produce in the presence of a catalyst. Over the years, oil from different plants, edible and non-edible crops, utilized for the production of biodiesel. However, there are limitations because it requires energy, it requires a large expanse of land, and also these crops are subjected to climatic conditions. One of the most promising feedstocks for biodiesel production is microbial oil, and this microbial oil are actually produced in large amounts by a set of organisms known as oleaginous organisms. Oleaginous organisms are organisms that are able to accumulate more than 20% of their biological mass as lipids. Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Hello?
You still have
We
1
hear you.
minute
Okay, let me continue.
something.
Okay, sorry. So these oleaginous organisms, they are highly advantageous as feedstocks for biodiesel production because they have a high growth rate, they have short producing period. The growth rate is independent of climatic conditions, they have short producing period, they have easy genetic modification, their cultures can easily be scaled up, they have easy upstream and downstream processes. Some of them can utilize cheap, inexpensive substrates for growth and lipid production, and more importantly, lipids from oleaginous organisms serve as an ideal candidate for the production of biodiesel because this can be achieved via a single transesterification reaction. Metabolic engineering of these oleaginous organisms provides a renewable route for the production of desired chemicals, and it actually involves the manipulation of specific pathways involved in lipid production using genetic engineering techniques. Pathway manipulation by genetic engineering allows the transformation of these microbes into cell factories. This project will actually contribute significantly to the body of knowledge because so far we have isolated some indigenous organisms which are being reported to be oleaginous for the very first time, and work is ongoing to metabolically engineer them to achieve optimum biodiesel production. Moreover, this project aligns with some of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, such as SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, SDG 15, life on earth, because it leads to the conservation of plants, which ultimately will contribute to SDG 1, no poverty. This is my submission. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Deborah. I think you've also miraculously managed to time that very well. I think that I imagine that probably took a lot of practice to get that into 3 minutes. So thank you very much. Uh, we're going to our next speaker. I think Saba is not here yet, right? Saba Ahmed. I don't see her in here, no. So our next speaker then is Irene Opoko Ntim. And she's from Ghana and she is working in nuclear physics. And I think if there's ever a research topic that is famously hard for non-experts to understand, it might be nuclear physics. So Irene, you have a challenge, but we're very curious to hear about your research. So over to you, please.
All right, thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm happy to be here to share my research. I'm here today to shed light on an often overlooked consequence of climate change. We all know climate change impacts our weather, but its influence goes much deeper, triggering hidden risks like radon gas in the environment. So I am Marino Pokuintim, a research scientist at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. And my research topic is on climate change and radon gas, a rising threat to our livelihood, harnessing IoT and data analytics for real-time monitoring. Radon is a silent threat. While it remains an invisible, odorless, colorless, naturally occurring radioactive gas, its danger is very real. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer in the world, according to the World Health Organization. Changes in our climate don't just mean warmer temperatures and severe weather events. They also alter the very environment around us. For example, the increase in soil moisture and temperature can also increase the release of radon in the environment. And when combined with poor indoor ventilation, when you look at how people are building nowadays with sliding windows, this can accumulate the release of radon in our homes. To address this urgent issue, my research is focusing on developing an innovative, low-cost radiation detector that leverages IoT technology. Let's just imagine a smart sensor that continuously monitors radon levels, analyzes data in real time, because the traditional detectors, you have to wait for a week, a month to get to know the levels of radiation that you have in your homes. And it sends immediate alerts to both residents and local authorities. This isn't just about cutting edge technology. It's about using data to empower communities to take proactive measures for health and safety. The impact of this work is in twofold. Locally, accurate and timely information can help residents make better decisions about their living environment, and policymakers can also implement more effective safety standards. Globally, this project serves as a model for how innovative, affordable technology can tackle environmental health risks, inspiring solutions far beyond Ghana. In conclusion, I would like to say, while radon gas may be unseen, its effects are tangible and dangerous. I invite you all to join me in raising awareness and supporting innovative approaches to safeguard our communities, our continent, and the world at large. Together, we can transform data into powerful force for positive change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. I think wow, you really rose to that challenge. That was really fascinating, and you did an excellent job making nuclear physics accessible and relatable to us, I think. So next up, we have Felipa Chinyere Ojimlukwe, also from Nigeria. And Felipa is working in the field of food science and food technology, which is a very interdisciplinary field. I know it can cover a huge range of topics. So please, Felipa, share with us what you're working on.
We
We
can't
can't
hear
hear
you.
you. Let's see. Are you muted? Let's see, where is she? Still can't hear you. No. We could hear you before, but now no.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, now yes. Now we hear you. Very good. Okay. Yeah, please go ahead and start over.
Sorry. Well, I've been working on improving human life using food. Over the years, we've looked at several underutilized African foods, identified their composition and their nature. And we're now trying to find out which foods are more relevant to acting on the reactive oxygen species, reactive nitrogen species, and the lipids that cause problems in the human system. So what we have been doing, or what we are doing now, we've received several grants that enabled us to do the compositional work. But what we're trying to do now is to find out the antioxidant properties of our local foods, to find out how they reinforce the human physiological antioxidant systems so that people will be able to live longer, people will be able to manage non-communicable diseases like diabetes, chronic lung diseases, and other non-communicable diseases. Of interest to us also is the women and their active, healthy life throughout the reproductive years and after, which is after menopause. Because a lot of imbalance created by natural processes of respiration and diseases that come to people are really making many people not to live out their lifespan. For instance, menopause makes the production of estrogen to become very low. And after menopause, a lot of women begin to suffer from cardiovascular diseases. So we're trying to look at foods beyond provision of energy, foods for health, that will help the immune system, that will enable an individual to live out his or her life in an active and a healthy way. We've been able to identify some of these foods from our localities that are quite useful. We are still going ahead to look at others which were found to have good potentials for extending longevity so that women during their reproductive years will have a balance of hormones, and after that, they'll be able to live healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philippa. That was really interesting and obviously such an important subject to many of the women here at the audience. So thank you for sharing your work. Our next presenter is Crystal Kabele Kyuka, who's also from Nigeria, and he's working in biotechnology, which is another field that can mean so many different things. So Crystal, can you tell us what it means in your case and what impact does your work have? Is Crystal here? Oh, she was here before, but maybe she's disappeared. Okay, we can skip her for now. So let's go on to Sherilyn though. Sherilyn Dambura from Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, our first presenter from Southern Africa. And Sherilyn is a mathematician who is working in data science and biostatistics. And there are many different applications of these subjects. So please, Sherilyn, can you tell us what you are working on?
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'd like to thank Irene for giving a bit of background on climate change. So the work that I'm working on is looking at how we can apply machine learning models to look at the association between health and maternal health outcomes. I think we can all appreciate that due to climate change, we're experiencing a lot of extreme heat. And for pregnant women, they're not able to regulate their temperature as well as everyone else. And we find out they have health outcomes that come, such as preterm birth or babies that are lower than their birth weight. There's some biological mechanisms that are involved there. And we find that Africa is usually the most hard hit because we have already existing high maternal mortality rates and neonatal death rates. And less of this research is currently being conducted in Africa. Out of a recent systematic review that looked at 198 studies that were looking at the effects of heat on pregnant women and their health outcomes, only 11 of them were from the African continent. And we know that Africa is the least resourced to carry out adaptation and mitigation measures. And so my work is looking at using existing pregnancy cohorts that we're looking at other health outcomes and merging that data with the climate data, the weather that was experienced by the woman during her pregnancy follow-up period, as well as merging with the location data. So you can just imagine how large and how complicated multi-layer that kind of a data set would be. So we're proposing to use data science methods to analyze that data. And then from the data science analysis, we'll be able to associate the heat that the woman experienced during her pregnancy and whichever health outcome was detected in that particular study that was following up. So you can just appreciate the wealth of data that we have as Africa. Most of the research has been conducted in our continent, and if we can leverage existing data, use machine learning methods, identify the associations, we can also link it up to early warning systems that can benefit pregnant women, and also advise policymakers. If we can really see a link between heat and the health outcomes, it can inform any adaptation and mitigation measures that they will be able to carry out. So I think this is a very topical issue as everyone is experiencing the effects firsthand. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sherilyn. That was fascinating. And I think it sounds like you're just at the beginning of exploring the potential of all this data, and it sounds really, really, really fascinating. So our next presenter is Gofran Faisal Mergani Ahmed from Sudan, who is working on the subject of water and water management, something that we can all immediately recognize is very important, but of course it's a complex topic. So Gofran, please tell us about your research.
Thanks. Good afternoon. My name is Gofran Ahmed from Sudan, and I'm working on drinking water, and more precisely, safe drinking water. And to provide safe drinking water, we have to ensure the microbiological safety of the water and also the chemical safety. The launching of the first full disinfection was in New Jersey in 1908, and the chlor was proved to be very powerful in killing pathogens and deactivating bacteria. But 70 years later, they figured out that the chlorine can react with the natural organic matter in the water and produce what is called the disinfection byproducts that are toxic material, and the long exposure to this material can cause cancer. Then many countries started to put guidelines and regulation and monitoring system for disinfection worldwide. But in 2023, a global assessment has been done and revealed that there is a huge gap in between the high income and the low income and middle income countries in terms of monitoring and regulating the disinfection byproduct. And the main reason with that, analyzing and testing the disinfection pipe product is very expensive, time consuming, and also need professional experts. And here is the gap that I'm working on. I'm trying to develop a simple and affordable method to predict the disinfection pipe product using machine learning. So what I'm trying to do is to develop a machine learning model that can take very simple tests like temperature, turbidity, and pH to predict the level of the disinfection pipe product formulation. And the overall aim is to develop an early warning system that can help the operator in the treatment plan, saying, hey, if you have this high turbidity and this temperature, you might have a risk of forming a high level of a disinfection pipe product, and then they can work in the pre-treatment to remove the natural organic matter because we need, of course, the disinfection to kill the pathogens. And another aspect of my work is to do a field work and collect samples to test the potential formulation of the disinfection pipe product in countries where no information is available. And it is sad to know that only in Africa, South Africa is able to provide guidelines and routine monitoring of this disinfection pipe product. And that's why I believe my research will contribute not only in Africa, but all countries that use chlorination in their treatment water. And I'm funding now by Stemberger to conduct this research. I hope you like it. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Gofran. I think that was a really wonderful presentation, very eye-opening to learn more about that. And I really liked your use of the water bottle prop. I think it was very effective. So let's move on to our third to last presenter, I think, who is Delfina Fernandez Lachueo from Mozambique, another representative from Southern Africa. And Delfina is our first presenter working in the field of medical sciences and public health specifically, which I think is very much on everyone's mind since COVID. So please, Delfina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity to present my research. I'm a biologist from Mozambique. I have a PhD in biosciences and public health and a postgraduate certificate in One Health. I'm a faculty member and researcher at Eduardo Mondlane University. I'm also an expert consultant for the European Commission, where I evaluate projects for funding. I'm also an academic editor where I assess scientific manuscripts for publication. I have a diverse background in health sciences. My research career began in 2013, where I coordinated two projects, one on cardiac biomarkers in patients with HIV, and the second on risk factors for non-communicable diseases, where we found that healthcare workers have significant risk factors. In 2018, I completed my master's in food safety, where I found high levels of aflatoxin contamination in peanut sold in Maputo, raising public health concerns. Since 2020, I started to conduct antimicrobial activity tests on plants and found that many plants have strong activity against bacteria and parasites. And given my growing interest in antibiotic resistance, my PhD was on antibiotic resistance in patients with diarrhea, and we found high antibiotic resistance rates. From a global perspective, I conducted systematic reviews and meta-analyses on antibiotic resistance of bacteria in sub-Saharan Africa, and we found widespread antibiotic resistance. Beyond research, I've been involved in capacity building. We've trained over 2,000 biomedical researchers in Mozambique, and I'm mentoring 30 young women in science through a grant from the United Kingdom, where I help them improve their conference presentations and assess opportunities in science. So far, 3 of my mentees have won Best Presentation Awards. Since 2024, I embarked on a new journey in science diplomacy. Last year, I was selected for the United Nations Youth for Biosecurity Fellowship, where I contributed to the biosecurity diplomacy and proposals to strengthen biological weapons convention. I also co-authored a policy proposal with my colleagues from Rwanda and Ethiopia, which won the World Food Forum Policy and Deliberation Challenge. Now I'm a volunteer at the World Health Organization for developing a blueprint for research for neglected tropical diseases, and I'm also contributing to the United Nations Hazard Information Profiles, specifically biological hazards. My goal is to continue my research while also bridging the gap between science, policy making, and diplomacy, ensuring that scientific knowledge translates into practical solutions for global challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Delphina. Your work sounds really important, and it sounds like you're really having a transformative impact already in Mozambique and in Southern Africa. Uh, so we have two more presenters. Our second to last presenter is Anna Marami from Tanzania, who I believe is also working on the topic of water, but from an engineering perspective. So please, Anna, if you can tell us about your research.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Anna Mremi. I'm working with Water Institute Tanzania as assistant lecturer. My project now, I'm doing a PhD. So my project research is all about climate variability impact on fecal sludge management. As we know that according to the global data, it said that 3.6 million people do lack sanitation, and this is primarily people who are found in unplanned settlement. And the issue of climate change has exacerbated this crisis in unplanned settlement. So whenever rains rain today, in unplanned settlement, people must choose between either using flooded pit latrines or using overflowing pit latrine or not use it at all. So imagine a community where the toilets floods. Sometimes they cannot use a toilet, maybe because they don't have water. So this is the daily life for thousands of people in Dar es Salaam city and in most of unplanned settlement in most of African country or underdeveloped country. So my study uses GIS analysis and also community engagement just to capture the historical data on climate variability and fecal sludge management. I have also in my study identified that in the study area, 90% of the area is under flood risk and directly impacting the fecal sludge management infrastructure, that is pit latrine and septic tank. As in my study area, 100%, I can say all people uses on-site sanitation system, that is pit latrine and septic tank. So most of this, they require fecal sludge management. And my study, I just evaluated two climate extremes, that is flood impact and drought impact on fecal sludge management. And flood impact, first of all, when we have floods, most of the time the settlements are inundated and also covered with water. So sometimes the issue of using toilet become a challenge. We have also overflowing due to raising groundwater and sometimes the inundated settlement. Also inaccessibility of the street for emptying. It's become a problem in most of the unplanned settlement. And also we have we call it a frequency emptying is required when we have more rainfall in different area. So all this is becoming a challenge, but we also have abandoned toilets in most of the area because they don't have water for flush. So all this has resulted into illegal discharge diseases, and sometimes they're risking or their public health has been in risk. So at the end of the day, this is study come up with it call upon all those who are concerned with the planning to come up with the climate resiliency and the smart planning that will help to build the long-lasting solution, especially for fecal sludge management. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that very compelling presentation. I think you did a really good job of painting very clearly the problems that you're trying to solve and really making us understand the extent of the challenge. So thank you very much. And last but not least, we have Millicent Serwa Marfo Ogiri from Ghana. So thank you, Millicent, for waiting patiently. And yeah, if you can please tell us a little about your research. I believe you're working in the field of pharmaceutical microbiology, if I'm not wrong. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm Millicent Sawama Forgery. I'm a PhD student in pharmaceutical microbiology at the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, KNUST. I focus on antimicrobial resistance in medicinal preparations. So to start my presentation, I would like to pose a question to everybody on here. Are you aware that for every 4 people out of 5 on this platform, we use herbal medications due to their perceived safety? Now, how would you feel knowing that the herbal medications that are intended to heal have the potential to worsen a disease condition due to the presence of microorganisms in there? The microbial quality of any medication is highly important because microorganisms have the tendency of rendering the active pharmaceutical component of any medication toxic if they go beyond a certain level. However, despite the increasing reliance of these medications globally, there seems to be a paucity of studies that focus on their microbial quality in countries like Ghana. The study that was conducted in this lab focused on assessing the microbial quality of 20 commercially available herbal medicines in the Kumasi metropolis, which serves as one of the hubs for the production of herbal medicines in Ghana. Now, using the pour plate technique, microorganisms in the products were cultured and enumerated, and then they were further identified using MALDI-TOF. Bacteria that were identified were also subjected to an antimicrobial susceptibility test using the Kebiba diffusion method. The results indicated that 80% of all products that were analyzed had microbial limits above the set standards, and that is a huge problem. 27 different species of microorganisms were also identified, and these 27 species had quite a number of them being implicated in clinical conditions. Also, all isolates that were subjected to the antimicrobial susceptibility test showed resistance to at least one class of antibiotic, another huge burden for the global populace. 5 of the isolates were also shown to be multi-drug resistant, in that they were resistant to 2 or more classes of antibiotic. Now, to conclude, it is evident that herbal medicines are likely to be contaminated with resistant microorganisms that have the ability to implicate the lives of consumers negatively. Therefore, it is of urgency that regulators ensure that good manufacturing practices within these sectors are being enforced. And it also lies on us as researchers to develop and find better and innovative ways of decoupling microorganisms from herbal preparations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Millicent. I know it's not easy being the last presenter, but you've managed to really keep up the energy, I think, and close us out strong today. I have to say, I'm really, really impressed with everybody for keeping on the time limit. I really thought that we would have to do a lot more harsh enforcement of the rules. So thank you for keeping to the time. And thank you so much to all of our incredible presenters. I think each one of you has shown how science can make a difference and how important it is to be able to communicate that to the world. So we've heard now all 15 presentations, I think, in the end, and it's now time for the audience to cast your votes. So we're going to open the poll. And please take a moment to vote for the presenter who you believe communicated their research most effectively and who showcased the greatest potential for impact of their research. And we're going to keep the voting open for 1.5 minutes. So get your vote in quickly, and don't forget that the top 3 presenters will move forward to the grand finale. So your vote will help decide who is going to compete against the winners from the other regions in March. Okay, so I will open the poll and then we'll see you back here in a minute.
Sorry, maybe the presenters can mute themselves, but just to show their image so it can be easier for the voters to recognize the faces.
Okay, we'll give just 20, 30 more seconds for voting.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have um, I think we have our results. Thank you for being part of today's very exciting Africa region session of the Short Talks Being the Impact competition. It was really an incredible showcase of research and passion, and I think every presenter today really managed to demonstrate how science can truly make a difference in our world. Now it's time to announce the winners. We have to just just 1 second. Sorry, allow us just 1 second because I think we have a situation where where two participants got the same voting. Sorry, we are actually going to announce the top 5 winners. However, we had a complicated situation because we have only the top 4 winners, because on the 4th position we have 2 people who had exactly the same amount of votes. So in the 5th place, we have no one, but on the 4th place, congratulations to both Gofran and Delfina, who are our 5th winners of this competition. Then on the 3rd place, well done to Aminatu. You can also applaud. Maybe there is I know we don't have the applause reaction in Zoom. That's unfortunate, but let's make a virtual applause to our 4th and 3rd winners. In the 2nd place, we have Irene, who won the 2nd place, and the winner, the first number 1 winner of the Africa region session is Chao. So congratulations to Dr. Chao for winning this competition. And a big round of applause to all of you amazing presenters. Thank you to your wonderful presentations, and thank you also to our wonderful audience who have been present for such a long time and being part of this very vibrant and engaging community. You've made this session really special, and thank you very much for your participation. As we announced before, the top 3 winners of this session will proceed to the grand finale, and we will share all the results also at a later stage with the other participants. Now I'm giving the word back over to Erin, who is going to close this session, and thank you very much, and I see you soon.
Thank you so much, Julia. And thank you again to all of our wonderful and courageous presenters who are all bold enough to come out today and do this experiment with us, really, and be on our virtual stage. And you've all really demonstrated how you can effectively communicate your research, even very complex topics, in a very short time. And I hope you've all gotten something out of it as presenters, and also the audience, some thought about presentation skills and what makes an effective presentation. And yeah, as Julia said, we hope that you might join us for the other regional sessions. We have next week Asia and the Arab region, I think. No, sorry, next week Latin America and the Caribbean, also on Friday. And yeah, here's the dates here. Thank you. And then the following Friday will be Asia Pacific and the Arab region. And then on Friday, 14th of March, we'll have our grand finale competition with the top 3 winners from each region, and a panel of judges from our partners here at TWAS and IAP. So it will be a big event. So make sure you register also for that. Okay, thank you everybody so much, and we hope to see you for the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.